Hello everybody and welcome to your show Political Landscape for this Friday, the 12th of January 2024. This week, Professor Chossudovsky will talk about the holding of public hearings at the International Court of La Hague. Hello, Professor, how are you today?
Yes, good afternoon. We're living history because yesterday on the 11th of January, the Republic of South Africa submitted a carefully formulated procedure against the State of Israel in relation to the Genocide Convention. And in fact, it's a very lengthy document, 84 pages, but it documented very carefully the fact that Israel is committing a genocide. And today, the 12th of January, was the response of the State of Israel to these accusations. I think first we should perhaps look at the very short excerpt of the presentation by South Africa. I should mention that the hearings lasted 3 hours, and they were very detailed. But this short excerpt, I think, points and articulates what is ongoing at the court, at the International Court of Justice in The Hague.
Madam President, distinguished members of the court, it is a privilege to appear on behalf of the Republic of South Africa in this case of exceptional importance. It's a case that underscores the very essence of our shared humanity as expressed in the preamble to the Genocide Convention. It's my task to address the court on the genocidal acts that have led to this urgent request for provisional measures under Article 41 of the Statute of the Court. South Africa contends that Israel has transgressed Article 2 of the Convention by committing actions that fall within the definition of genocide. The actions show a systematic pattern of conduct from which genocide can be inferred. Allow me to place these acts in context. Gaza is one of the two constituent territories of the occupied Palestinian territories, occupied by Israel since 1967. It is a narrow strip of approximately 365 square kilometers, as depicted in the map now displayed. Israel continues to exercise control over the space, territorial waters, land crossings, water, electricity, electromagnetic sphere, and civilian infrastructure in Gaza, as well as over key governmental functions. As the Honorable Minister has said, entry and exit by air and sea to Gaza is prohibited, with Israel operating the only two crossing points. Gaza, which is one of the most densely populated places in the world, is home to approximately 2.3 million Palestinians, almost half of them children. For the past 96 days, Israel has subjected Gaza to what has been described as one of the heaviest conventional bombing campaigns in the history of modern warfare. Palestinians in Gaza are being killed by Israeli weaponry and bombs from air, land, and sea. They are also at immediate risk of death by starvation, dehydration, and disease as a result of the ongoing siege by Israel, the destruction of Palestinian towns, the insufficient aid being allowed through to the Palestinian population, and the impossibility of distributing this limited aid while bombs fall. This conduct renders essentials to life unobtainable. At this provisional measures stage, as this court has made clear in the Gambia-Myanmar case, it is not necessary for the court to come to a final view on the question of whether Israel's conduct constitutes genocide. It is necessary to establish only whether at least some of the acts alleged are capable of falling within the provisions of the Convention. On analyzing the specific and ongoing genocidal acts complained of, it is clear that at least some, if not all of these acts, fall within the Convention's provisions. These acts are documented in detail in South Africa's application and confirmed by reliable, often UN sources. It's thus unnecessary and impossible for me to recount all of them. I will highlight only some in order to illustrate the pattern of genocidal conduct. The UN statistics that are relied upon are up to date as of 9 January 2024. In South Africa's oral submissions, we will illustrate the facts that we rely on with limited use of audiovisual material. Madam President, we do so with restraint and only where necessary, and always with respect to the Palestinian people. Against this background, I move now to demonstrate, in turn, how Israel's conduct violates Articles 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D of the Convention. The first genocidal act committed by Israel is the mass killing of Palestinians in Gaza, in violation of Article 2A of the Genocide Convention. As the UN Secretary General explained 5 weeks ago, the level of Israel's killing is so extensive that nowhere is safe in Gaza. As I stand before you today, 23,210 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces during the sustained attacks over the last 3 months. At least 70% of whom are believed to be women and children. Some 7,000 Palestinians are still missing, presumed dead under the rubble. Palestinians in Gaza are subjected to relentless bombing wherever they go. They are killed in their homes, in places where they seek shelter, in hospitals, in schools, in mosques, in churches, and as they try to find food and water for their families. They have been killed if they failed to evacuate. In the places to which they have fled, and even while they attempted to flee along Israeli-declared safe routes. The level of killing is so extensive that those whose bodies are found are buried in mass graves, often unidentified. In the first 3 weeks alone, following 7 October, Israel deployed 6,000 bombs per week. At least 200 times it has deployed 2,000-pound bombs in southern areas of Palestine designated as safe. These bombs have also decimated the north, including refugee camps.
So can you come back on this extract and explain what is going on really? And it is something really important. It's not each day that we see that the international court are doing this type of action.
Well, let me just put it in context. First of all, I think we we must firmly support and endorse the Republic of South Africa's initiative. There are numerous countries around the world who have now endorsed it at the governmental level. I would say that worldwide there's a movement all over the world, and what was described in the excerpt from the hearings is very concrete. They're killing people. They're killing children. They're destroying homes. They're destroying everything. And that is genocide. They're preventing the flow of food into Gaza. They're cutting electricity. And they're ordering people to move out of their homes. And the homes are destroyed. And it's rubble. Now, anybody who looks at the videos of what's happening in Gaza said these are crimes against humanity. And who is supporting it? Our governments are supporting it. Okay, so we should confront, and I should say from a legal standpoint, those who support it are also complicit in the conduct of genocide. Now, what the Republic of South Africa put forth was something quite specific. Let's say in the short run, it's what they call provisional measures. Now, provisional measures means that they will be implemented essentially to protect Palestinians. Okay, well, legally they say the court indicate provisional measures to protect the rights invoked from imminent and irreparable loss. But what the South African lawyers are submitting is the issue of an interim order for Israel to immediately suspend its military operations in Gaza. That's what they want. Okay. Now, and that is something which would ultimately suspend the operation of wiping Gaza off the map. But I must say that from my own understanding of the geopolitics behind this are very important. On the one hand, that's one element. And why is it important? Because this is not strictly a war in Palestine and Israel. It is becoming, and it was planned well in advance, as a regional war. And in as much as the United States and NATO and Israel are waging a regional war, the result of this procedure initiated by South Africa is absolutely crucial. And they want to continue with this war. And it's not only genocide against the people of Palestine. In fact, it's an act of aggression against the whole region. And we see it happening in Lebanon, in Syria, and now we see it in Yemen. And I should say, we've talked about the issue of false flags. We know the issue of false flags was discussed in relation to the October 7th intervention, and the official position of Israel said, "Oh, this took us by surprise. We didn't know it was going to happen." Nonsense. They knew it, and they were behind it. But I won't. In other words, they needed a pretext and a justification to wage the genocide. And official statistics come out that the operation launched by Hamas on October 7th has resulted in slightly more than 1,000 deaths. But in fact, it was Israel that, through its its endorsement of a certain faction within Hamas, which made this operation possible, and it was categorized as a surprise operation, and there were no mechanisms to impede it. So that is what we call a false flag. You blame this on your enemy and say, well, no, they did it first and they're attacking us, and then we have to defend ourselves. So that procedure is going further, because now you have a situation in the Red Sea, which is militarized, and then you have the Houthis who are attacking the United States military presence, saying that they're in solidarity with Palestine. But on the other hand, this is also a false flag agenda for the United States to say they are attacking us. And they are now envisaging an enlargement of this war. And then it's the issue of Iran. Now, if Iran comes into the context of this enlarged Middle East war, then we are in a World War III scenario. Then the implications are very serious.
And now you have also some worries concerning the impartiality of the judges.
Well, precisely. Now, that's very important because, first of all, this court, the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, the World Court, is controlled by Washington. Now, why do I say that? Because the president of the World Court, who presides these 15 judges, she is a former legal advisor to Hillary Clinton when Hillary Clinton was in charge of the U.S. State Department. Okay, she was Secretary of State, and the president of the court was not only nominated. That's Joan E. Donoghue, okay, president of the ICJ, Joan E. Donoghue, who is currently chairing the hearings, was a legal advisor to Secretary of State Clinton under the Obama administration. Now, she's in the pocket of Washington. In other words, the ICJ is under Washington's spotlight, and she, I'm not to say that she is a liaison with the US government. There's no doubt about that. But this is all done in a very subtle way of co-opting. They co-opt the 15 judges. That's a piece of cake for them. It's bribes, it's threats, it's various mechanisms. We're familiar with that. How members of how politicians are bribed and co-opted, and this is certainly going to happen once the judges, once these hearings are completed and so on. There will be a decision by the 15 judges, and then the question is, and I beg the question, that given the fact that there will be pressures, including bribes, on these 15 judges of the ICJ, as well as the central role of the president, ICJ Joan E. Donoghue, who is really an appointee of the state of the U.S. government, will there be any kind of meaningful provisional measures based on the realities of genocide in the Gaza Strip? I fear that Israel, if let's say a decision is not taken to seize these military operations almost immediately, Israel, with the support of the US, will be able to reach its goal of what they call wiping Gaza off the map and excluding Palestinians from their homeland and ultimately destroying the state, destroying Palestine as a political entity. Now, I think that our governments, as well as Washington, that's what they want. They want to wipe Palestine off the map. And this has been ongoing for many, many years. And then the question is, what avenue should we take to, in as much as these military operations are resulting in extensive loss of life, including newly born babies, and destruction of hospitals, schools, everything. That's what we call genocide, and it's characteristic of many of the military operations waged by the United States and its allies, including the United Kingdom under Tony Blair in Iraq, for instance. It's extensive crimes and killings of civilians, in whether it's genocide or war crimes. What it means is that these operations waged in the name of, well, they'll say, oh, it's counterterrorism that we're doing. We're not going into a country. We're coming to their rescue. We're spreading democracy. And all this is absolute nonsense. And what I'm saying there, and I'll conclude on that, is that we need to bring an end to these military operations. And if the governments do not, in other words, if Israel, the United States, NATO member states, which are collaborating in this broader Middle East war, do not cease killing people, we have to envisage something which is very important in international law, and it is the right for soldiers and pilots to abandon the battlefield. In other words, to disobey unlawful orders and abandon the battlefield. Now, that was something that happened for a short period in Christmas of 1914 at the beginning of World War I. But it is something very explicit, and it's explained. It's Principle 4 of the Nuremberg Charter. And it's not something that requires a political rubber stamp of the ICC or the ICJ. And it is based on the idea that combatants have a responsibility to disobey the orders of governments or superiors who are acting in a criminal fashion, who are violating, the various conventions and so on. But actually, Nuremberg Charter also defines what is being violated. And what I'm saying is that we should envisage at the grassroots level, across the land, nationally, internationally, although possibly mainly in Israel, to encourage combatants, Israeli, American, NATO combatants, to disobey unlawful orders and abandon the battlefield, because they're actually killing people. So I have reflected on this, because I don't think we're going to get any kind of action on the part of of the US government and its ally, the State of Israel, its subordinate ally, the State of Israel. Okay? And I should mention, that is also another thing, is that in effect, the United States, well, in effect, we can interpret it in different ways, but the president of the International Court of Justice is in fact in conflict of interest because her government is in fact also involved in the planning of the genocide. It's not strictly Israel, it's Israel-US initiative. And they have their advisors, they have their special troops there, they're killing journalists, they're subcontracting, and so on. So to conclude, we need to review this notion of disobeying unlawful orders, because the people who are waging this war are criminals, and in those conditions, the combatants have a responsibility to abandon the battlefield. And that is one way, if it is conducted at the grassroots level, to instate peace and to confront the warmongers. And it should be done at the level of the entire Middle East, not strictly limited to Israel. So that, in a nutshell, is my proposal, which is not really the object of any kind of debate in the anti-war movement, because we're not going to achieve suspension of this genocide necessarily through the decision of these 15 judges at the International Court of Justice.
Thank you very much for this week. We warmly invite you to support the group of globalresearch.ca. You can do a donation by going on this webpage. You can also subscribe in order to receive, to be on the mailing list and receive all the articles that are published each week by the group. So thank you very much and see you next time.